Hey, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I will be doing a curly hair braiding routine because it's just a little bit harder when dealing with curly hair, super curly hair when trying to braid. And I've learned over time my little ways of doing it. Excuse my daughter's hair, it's so dry. So what you'll need for this whole project is a distractor. This is so important. It depends on your child. You know them best. If they need a tablet to focus, food, sleep. Some kids braid better when they're asleep. Mine doesn't, but some do. Whatever will keep them sane the longest. You're going to need some edge control for those oh so important infant strands on the start of your child's forehead, also known as baby hairs. You'll need some jam to help define the parts so they're cleaner, they look nicer, even if the braid isn't the best, it helps a lot. You'll need conditioner for the real health of your child's hair while in this style, moisturizer if your child's hair is extremely dry like mine is. This will help braiding easier. You need a comb and detangler, which is important for parting and detangling. And it's optional to have a soft brush for the secret ingredient of designer edges, which that is if you want to be fancy. You'll see me get a little fancy up in here. So we started just getting it wet. I actually have some oils in that spray in her hair. That's the moisturizer I will be using from the Diva collection. I believe it's called Diva Curls. I'll leave a link below. And then I'm just detangling with the pink brush. My daughter calls it the soft brush. It's important to make this as painless as possible. I've noticed the more pain, the worse she acts. So I definitely consider that a major key. I started off using the beeswax for the part defining. I did not love it. I have used beeswax before for my own braiding, but for her hair, it was wet, so it wasn't really combining like I would like it to for the original beeswax. So I kind of only did the main part. And what you're going to try to do is, I always start with parting it in half, depending on your style. But for this style, I started with in half. And I just put the beeswax in between and then cleaned it up as I saw fit to get the straightest line I could possibly get. I'm not the best at parting, but I do what I can when I can, depending on how she wants to act. She wanted to go get a blanket. Make sure they're comfortable. That is so important. I cannot stress that enough. So for me, I start with parting in half in the back. It really helps me. I have this thing about both sides being even as much as possible. So I usually start with a half part. And then you're going to section it off. And you're going to need a few sectionals, or whatever you would like to call it. It depends what you use. But you're just going to use those. This is me continuously detangling it, because if your child really has curly hair, you know it gets real tangled real fast. So you want to keep it as detangled as possible, which is easy right now because it's still pretty wet. So yes, I'm just detangling it. And then I'm going to start with this first one. I kind of just eyed it, which I don't really recommend, but that's just kind of how I started. And I did more of a moon part to make sure the bottom is skinnier than the top, because the way her hair grows, there's just more hair in the middle. So that helps, because if you did it straight back, it wouldn't have enough for all the braids. So the bottom is always smaller, is what I've noticed with her head. So I'm just trying to get the part as straight as possible. And what you're going to do when you are parting is add the jam in between the part, and then part one more time just to make sure all the sides are clean. It really helps keep the hair on either side, just to make sure it doesn't, try to come into the braid while you're braiding it. and I'm still detangling it. I'm just showing you her ends. People tell me she doesn't need her ends cut, but I promise you, I feel like she needs her ends cut. They just, they just get really dry, and to me, they get tangled, and I just feel like I just need to cut them. So right now, I'm just sectioning off that one part. And I'm going slow for this part just so you guys can see the first braid, the first section. And if you have a hard time eyeing it, I do have a comb, and I typically would use the tip of the comb as an estimator for the size of each braid. So that way they're pretty consistent as long as you measure it out each time on each braid until you're able to eye the size of the part. So right now you're just going to get a small section, divide it into 3. And what's important with super curly hair is you keep at the base. Don't come up a lot, and keep as good of a grip as you possibly can. You're going to want your hand on as much as that hair because you're going to try to straighten it out as you're going. You're not going to be able to just, like, some people just kind of loosely do it. That's not gonna work the best. Also, some people are able to do it fast, but with curly hair, I've learned that it's better to do it slowly, so you can continuously like pull the hair. You're not gonna want to do it too tense because that will cause pain, as well as breakage, scalp bumps, just a whole lot of nasty. You don't want that. So you want to go as gentle as possible, but at the same time, straighten it out as you go. Because what you don't want is the curl to pop out of the braid as you're doing it, because then it looks messy and it looks like the braid is starting to unravel. It's not a good look. It's not. So you're going to just try your best to do this. And I do overhand the best when I'm doing her hair. Curly hair tends to do better because I realize when you do overhand, you don't get as good as a grip. You have to let go of it, I feel. So I do overhand, which is basically you always have the middle strand over, and you're gonna tuck the right under the middle. Then you're gonna tuck the left under the middle, and you're gonna just keep doing that, keep doing that. Whereas in reverse, if I was to do it underhand, I would put them over the middle, over the middle. And I have not mastered the hand gestures to do overhand. Like, I just kind of let go. It's not the tightest braid. Unless it's really long hair, long straight hair, then I can do it. But as for her medium, really super curly hair, cannot do it for the life of me. If you have any videos to help me, I've been looking at some. I just cannot get it because she prefers one braid, Elsa braid is what she calls it, and I just cannot do it for her. It looks insane. So what you just saw me do was I use the comb as I'm braiding to help me detangle and straighten it as I go. Like I said, her ends get super dry and tend to get super tangled. So I just use that as I go, as I see fit, to help keep it clean. So it comes out really nice. So now I'm just braiding as far down as I can. I don't typically braid to the very tip because I don't see the point, because I'm putting beads on the end of this. And I fold it over the bead and twist a little bit. So there's some room that I really don't need braids. But I do want to braid as far down as I can so that it doesn't come loose. So now you see me using the tip of my comb to kind of measure the parts so they're as symmetrical as possible, because that's my goal, is symmetry, because symmetry is key, and it just brings me happiness when I can bring as much symmetry to her hair as humanly possible when I'm braiding. Because if not, and it's all lopsided, it drives me insane, y'all. I don't even know what to say about that. But that's that on that. That's all I can say. So you just see me finishing this part of her head. I believe I'm gonna start braiding this, and then we're gonna speed this video up. I just wanted to show you guys two parts, two braids in a normal speed, just so you kind of get the groove of, I go slow, you know, I take my time, I take it out as I need, and I try again. You know, I'm not perfect. I'm just trying to make sure she doesn't look crazy on the day-to-day. And I don't have to wake up every morning and do this crazy girl's head, y'all. She gives me a run for my money every day. So one less thing is one less thing. And that is that on that. So I'm just getting situated to finish her hair. Finish this braid rather. And again, detangle each part. It really makes it easier. One of the main keys to braiding your child's hair, whether it's curly hair, straight hair, 4C, you want to make it as painless as possible. These kids don't like pain, nor do they like sitting down for a long period of time. So they're definitely not going to sit down for a long period of time in pain. I mean, I did, but I was forced to, and that's a different story, and I'm not about to get into that and all the emotional scars it gave me. You know what? I'm collecting myself right now. But yes, so I'm just going to show you guys. You want to get the 3 parts. They don't even have to be 100% even. You just don't want them to be crazy different. And then I just tuck the right under, tuck the left under, right under, left under, right under, left under. I think you get the gist. And we're going to speed this up right about now. So I don't want to talk your head off this entire video, so I inserted some music, and I hope you guys enjoy. I'll check back in a few. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. Hi, so I'm back. I didn't want this video to be so long, but I did want it to be semi-realistic to the time that you're actually going to be sitting down doing their hair. This took about 2 hours to completely finish, beginning to end. Um, I just hope this video and these clips are really helping you guys get a gist of what it's like and how easy it really can be to just braid your kids' hair. Okay, so I'm back and I'm just going to re-show you guys how I use the comb's base to decide the thickness of each part. I try not to go too thin because her hair seems to be, it just looks not, I like when it looks thick and healthy. So I try not to go too thin, but I try not to go too big because those just don't last as long. So a good point in between. I try to, if when I do the back half and half, I try to get 4 on each side, so 8 fully in the back. And that's just kind of how I've measured out her head for me. Something about being able to like pre-plan, pre-see that it helps me braid better, at least part better. Still not perfect, but better. And I hope that helps you guys. Depending on your kid's head size, you may want more braids, less braids. Also, the thickness of the hair will matter because, for instance, my hair, I can get a skinny part in my hair and it not look crazy because I have extremely thick hair. Actually, the smaller parts tend to look better. So that's where me and my daughter differ. I have 4C hair. You can clearly see this is not 4C hair. I don't understand how she didn't get around 4C hair, but you know what? Different strokes, different folks. I had to figure out her hair like a newborn baby. Um, I just wasn't used to this texture of hair, so I did have a lot of learning curves, but I feel like we're getting to a point now where I kind of understand it, and my biggest issue right now is just making sure it stays moisturized. Moisture, moisture, moisture is so important for curly hair because dry curls just aren't the same. Take it from me, ladies, that's the most important thing to figure out, and gents. Just try to figure out what your hair will accept, um, and go with that. Um, we're still kind of experimenting. I kind of know what works for her hair, but also I want variety, so I don't always have to go to this 1 or 2 products. Just because I know the 1 or 2 products that I really like for her hair are like $20 a bottle. I don't always have that, so I'm trying to find, some cheaper, more budget-friendly options. Um, but again, when I buy the products, it tends to last a good amount of time. So right now I'm showing you guys another way to do the hairstyle is to pre-part the hair. This way you're able to see what it's going to look like mapped out across the head, so you don't have one braid that's like really scrawny because it was on the end and you didn't realize, and if you put it into the braid is huge. If you take it out, that's tiny and you just don't know what to do. I'm telling you this from experience. Yes, it has happened to me, but you live and you learn. So this is another way by pre-mapping it out, which is also why I like this symmetry of 4 and 4, because you know you're going to aim for 4 on that side. You know you're going to aim for 4 on the other side. And if you get 3 on this side and 4 on this side, that side is big. Try it again. So to me, it just makes my brain happy. Guys, I cannot express to you how happy symmetry and being able to map it out in my head makes me. It makes me happy. And that's another thing, what you can do if this is your first time doing your kids' hair. Part it in half, part that in half, part that in half. See how it looks. Even after the first Once you part it in fourth, see how it looks. Maybe you only need 2 on each side. But if not, and you need to go down more, part that in half. Too thick, part that in half. And it just makes the world a better place. It makes it so much easier to just figure it out. Because for the top of the head, what I'm going to do is use the bottom braids to be able to make them as symmetrical as possible. Maybe not symmetrical, but as equal parts as possible. So this is just me sectioning off each spot, and let's get back to it. Okay, so now we're going to the front of the hair, and I'm just showing you the different ways you can part. Um, I still try to do two sections unless I do it as I demonstrated the first time, where I just pulled it all to one side, and in that case I just need to do the parts completely across the head, so I wouldn't need the 2 parts. But I tend to like her hair parted somewhat down the middle, somewhere down the middle. So that's what I decided to do, was kind of a slanted part with some braids going this way, some braids going that way. And when I part, I try to keep the beads in mind, because if they're on the end, like the very last piece, if you don't curve that in some, that braid is going to be in their face for as long as the braids are in her face, and it's really distracting. Um, I did take out her sideburns a little bit and a little bit of the top part. Depending on how fine and gentle the hair is, you might want to do that for your kid as well. For her, I don't always do it, but I was feeling like I wanted to be a little fancy at the end and swirl some edge control and edges and make some swirly curlies. Actually, I don't recommend that for kids her age, not because it makes them look grown or anything, which I've heard that criticism before, but just because for her, she don't like to wear wraps, which is what will help maintain the hairstyle. She does not like wearing it. So it makes it extremely difficult for that to continue to look decent when you wake up and it's just crazy and it dries out. So I do try to alleviate having any hair left out as possible, but like I said, I did want to get a little fancy. I was debating with the endmost braids if I wanted to braid them towards her face or away. I ended up braiding them all the way. That's like a new style, is just having the ends of the hair braided forward, but like I said, then they have beads in their face and it's really distracting. And if your child is anything like her, they get distracted so easily. The last thing I need is something to purposefully and knowingly distract her. She has enough distractions in life. So as you see, I'm just braiding, and at the very end of my parts, I like to make sure each part is at the halfway mark of the braid in the back. that is already done, and that helps make sure each braid is thicker, not thicker, but the thickness it needs to be, which you see me measuring it out. The difference between the bottom half and the top half is the bottom half, the thickest part is in the middle, and then the part gets skinnier as you go down. With the top part, the very top of the forehead is going to be this most narrow part, and then you're going to get thicker as you go down. That's the only difference. It's basically flip-flopped. As long as you can remember that, your parts will be decent. But like I said, if you just try to do a straight part, at least for her head shape and size, I run out of area, and then the braids start to look a little weird. It helps also starting the braid, because you want the start of the braid to kind of be narrow. It just, to me, I like how that looks. And to do that, obviously you're going to have to start the part narrow and then add hair as you go down, because you tend to just have more surface area in the middle of your head. And I don't know if that changes. I know I've just started doing my own hair braiding wise, and I've kind of noticed that for my hair. So you want to keep that in mind when you're doing the hair, no matter what design you go with. That's important to remember. Narrow, thick, narrow. And just try to work your way through the hairstyle, depending on the child, depending on the head shape, depending on the hair growth. It's different for everybody, but it's similar for each process. So here I'm just showing you in fast mode, and I'm going to let you get back to it. And then we're going to go into the beads, and I'm going to show you how I use the utensil. I do not sit there and try to needle each bead in. I refuse. But I'm going to show you guys. That's the utensil I use. And I just put beads on it. It just depends on the hairstyle and how long her hair is at the moment. And then I thread her hair through. I fold it. That's the utensil. I put 9 beads on it. And then I fold it in half on the end. And I just push the beads through. And I make sure I have enough of her hair on the other half that is able to pull through without falling and all the beads dropping. I fold her hair in half on the very end on top of that bead, and then I just turn with the rubber band, and I just keep turning and turning. I don't change directions. I know some people change directions when they are beading, but I notice it helps. It's easier to take out when you just keep going in the same direction, as well as it makes it, the rubber band itself will extend on the ends of her hair, making all the rest of the beads nicely just come down, join together. Any like fly outs is in the rubber band. I do not necessarily recommend rubber bands, but with her hair, it's always worked the best for us. But the way I try to alleviate any breakage is when it's time to come out, I have a small pair of scissors, and I make sure I kind of pull the easiest part to get a hold of, and I cut it instead of pulling it out, which I know where most of the breakage comes from. So that's what I use. Rubber bands look the best, and unless I'm doing the one ponytail, then I'm able to get away with something a little thicker. But yeah, for this hairstyle at least, I definitely recommend black rubber bands. I've tried clear. They do not do it for me anymore, as the song goes. So it's really up to you. Just make sure that it lasts as long as you want the hairstyle to last, because these kids will get in their hair, play with it, and try to get each bead individually out of their hair. Their teachers will walk up to you with a handful of beads talking about, here you go. I know from experience. So I try to get them in there as well as I humanly can. But at this age, she's to a point where she just knows how to take them out, and she plays with her hair entirely too much. So I know, but before I want to take these braids out, there will be a handful of beads gifted to me. So I always have I have a stack of beads, a bunch of different flavors for every mood I'm in, every mood she's in. So that's always important. Keep your bead game up. If you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. Bathroom break. So we're back, and we're just gonna finish off our hair. Now this is what I'm talking about with them edges, honey, and you want to use a soft brush. Don't be mean to them edges. Them is baby hairs, okay? Hairs. They are gentle. The shepherd's hair, if you will. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Instagram at KeonceLove, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.